So as I reflect over the past few months, I came into this wilderness season wanting to change my circumstance, and it hasn't changed. But instead, He's changing me. Welcome to the Sublime Soiree podcast from Your Invited Ministries. We are Sue and Linda, and the Sublime Soiree is a warm space where you are personally invited to slow down, feel truly seen, and draw closer to the God who's prepared a seat just for you at His table.
Hi, everybody. Last week, we were able to talk with our friend and author, Katie Epling, about her new Bible study that she's written called Encountering Yahweh, How God Forms His People in the Wilderness. And it's a study of Exodus chapters 1 through 18. And in that interview, Sue, Katie was likening the wilderness to marathons. And she was saying that to train for a marathon, we don't just go out and run a marathon. We do small little races, small training spurts in order to build our strength, in order to be able to endure then that full marathon. Well, the wilderness is very similar, especially a wilderness journey with God as our leader, because He pours things into us all the days leading up to that wilderness time. And even at the time, we might not even realize that that's training for that wilderness period. And yet it does. It gets us ready. The difference between a marathon and the wilderness is that marathons are on our calendar. We know when they're coming. We have no idea when a wilderness experience might be coming, but we're trained for it. We're ready for it. And we're trained even further in it. And that's just such a beautiful difference and a beautiful analogy. And we just loved what Katie had to share.
Last April, we shared our own personal wilderness experiences with you as we reflected on our journeys with God through the season of Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter. Our conversation with Katie moved us to take a look back at that episode.
Yes.
And friends, we have to admit, we were kind of awed by it.
Yes.
Not so much by what we said in it, the episode itself, but all we have seen God do since the episode. We were left realizing to seek God is to be changed. And today we want to tell you how.
Yes. So I'm going to share a few stories of just the things that I've noticed since sharing what I shared back in April. And I'm going to start by telling you about a recent phone call that I had to have. I had to call the Social Security Administration, and I was speaking with this agent, and she needed to put me on hold for a moment and go and do some investigating behind the scenes. And this is what she said to me. She said, "I'm going to put you on hold. The line will be silent, but I'll still be here, and you can call out to me if you need anything." So I was thinking about that, and I realized that her statement reminded me so much of something we shared in that April video about a quote that Annie F. Downs had spoken on her podcast. She said, "God doesn't move, that He is always present and ever-present help. What does happen is that we move, or we put layers between ourselves and Him." You and I were talking just yesterday morning about how we really want to cultivate, and Katie even talked with us about this in our podcast last week, but Katie was talking about how we really need to develop solitude and silence. And you and I literally had said the very same thing to one another when we were talking, because we realized that we have such a desire to hear God. Sometimes the line seems silent, right? But is it Him moving, or is it that we've built layers? And sometimes the layers are actually good layers at first glance, right? I mean, it might be listening to a Christian podcast, like the Sublime Soiree podcast. It might be listening to Christian talk radio. It might be listening to worship music. But when we're filling up our ears with all of those external things, sometimes it keeps us from being able to hear God when He's truly speaking. He's on the line. He's speaking with us. And so practicing that solitude and that silence really resonated with us. And that's something I know you and I both want to practice more. So also in our post-Lenten episode in April, I shared about how I had been asking myself, am I all in? Not am I in or am I out, but am I all in? Because I said that often I confess with my mouth what I believe. You hear me say it all the time when we are on the Sublime Story podcast, but are my actions and my work backing up what I say I believe? In other words, am I practicing what I'm preaching? And since the episode that we aired in April, my husband and I have been going through this book. You're going to be talking about it in a minute too, Sue. It's a devotional, an older devotional from Pastor Mark Batterson, and it's called Draw the Circle. And in that devotional, Mark Batterson says some things repeatedly. He says this phrase, he says, work like it depends on me or you, pray like it depends on God. And I'll tell you, God has been transforming my heart through that statement because, first of all, my prayers have become much more fervent, much more bold, much more believing, just believing what I'm asking. But also, my actions have been more intentional, more hope-filled, and really more believing that I'm doing things as if the prayers have already been answered. And that's just been a lovely change. And what it just drove home to me, just the first of many that he's been driving this home to me, is that he keeps transforming us as we keep seeking him. So then also I spoke in the April episode about Jesus denying himself in order to serve others, but further explained it that it wasn't just emptying in order to give, it was emptying myself of myself so that God could pour in himself to us so that we can serve others. And again, that's the wonderful picture that Jesus has given to us all through Scripture. But I'm finding myself operating that way a little bit more myself, and I'll explain that. So since April, one of the rhythms that I've been in is surrendering everything daily to God, that the first thing I do is to just consecrate my day, myself, my mouth, my ears, my eyes, my mind, my heart, and my will to him. And then, yes, confessing to him, worshiping him, sharing my cares and concerns with him, but letting that literally be the first thing that I do. And in doing that, I've just developed a much greater security with him. And not only am I feeling more secure, but it feels like it's just kind of spilling out. And it's not one of those things where I'm saying, oh, I'm going to put on joy so that everybody can see it. It's not, I'm not putting anything on, it's spilling from the inside out. And again, it's just one of those testaments to how when we are delighting in seeking God, he is transforming us. And then finally, I talked about God being my all in all, my everything. And I'm piggybacking a little bit on what I just shared a moment ago. But again, I had to ask myself, am I really living that way? Because to be honest, back in April, I confessed to all of you that I might wake up and the first thing I was thinking about was my friends, my husband, my task list for the day, my dog, so many things, and not necessarily him, not necessarily making God my top priority. And yet again, through the wonderful devotional that we've been working through, God keeps transforming me as I delight in him. And through that devotional, my rhythms have changed so that I am waking up first thing. I am going to my knees first thing. And it's just changing my whole day. We were talking with Katie last week about this idea of marbles and pebbles and nail polish. And the marbles were the important things of the day, and the pebbles were the less important, but still kind of necessary, I guess. And then the nail polish was supposed to be God. And if we even do the most important things of the day first, and then some of those other things, and we try to fit God in later, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into the jar if you were trying to hold all of that in a jar. But if you start with him, everything else just kind of fits around it. And that's what I keep noticing. It really drives home this idea of Psalm 37:4, and we've all heard it. And I think we've probably heard it misused, right? Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And I think I've heard that so many times being used by people to kind of make God a genie in a bottle, where we just say, oh, we just delight ourselves in him, and he gives us everything we want. And kind of, but here's the change. When we delight ourselves in God, he changes our hearts so that what we desire is what he desires, and then he grants us those desires. And I feel like these months since what we shared in April are such a testament to that he changes us as we seek him. And friends, I wanted to just share all that with you, not to say at all in any way, shape, or form, look what I've been doing. Not at all. I really wanted to say this because I know you feel this way too, Sue. We just want you to experience what we've been experiencing, and that is that when we seek God, we are changed. He transforms us. So how about you?
First, the wilderness reveals what am I holding on to. And in this season, God has been teaching me so much about surrender.
Yes.
Surrender has been my word of the year. And as I pray and I press into that word, God has been showing me, what does it look like to open my hands and let go of controlling situations I can't change. And when we go through seasons of hardship, it often exposes how much time and energy I spend on striving instead of surrendering. He keeps asking, Sue, will you trust me with what you cannot control? And in his kindness, he keeps redirecting my focus back to who he is. His character, his love, and his faithfulness.
Yes.
And I'm realizing yet again that surrender is not a one-time decision. It's
Right.
daily
Yes.
and often moment by moment. And I have to keep asking myself, what am I holding on to, or who am I trusting more than God?
Yes.
The wilderness teaches me how to wait, if I'm honest. And I don't like
yes.
waiting. I don't think many of us
No.
do. For me, this season has required more solitude and quiet than usual.
Yes.
Pausing before the day begins, sitting with God's word, and simply resting in his presence all throughout the day. These moments have become sacred. They give me perspective, renew my mind, and remind me that God is still working, even when I can't see it, and even when I'm overwhelmed. One thing that was especially encouraging to me in the devotional Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson, which Linda, you and Dave are going through, and you gave me to read as well. It has really shaped my days, not just in the importance of prayer, but praying about everything.
Yes.
And in this book, he shares so many examples of waiting on God and how that time is never wasted.
Right.
Often when I feel sad or hidden or lonely or unsure, God is doing his deepest work.
Yes.
Each morning, I give my life to God in surrender again. I give him my cares and my worries and my burdens, and I ask him to guide and direct my steps. It has been such a practical reminder that prayer is often where surrender deepens.
Yes.
The wilderness also reminds me of who God is and who I am. And when circumstances don't change, my view of God can get distorted. I start asking, God, do you see me? You could fix this. Do you care? But God keeps bringing me back to my favorite book, Ephesians 1:1, where it says, I'm chosen, I'm loved, and I'm his.
Yes.
My identity is not anchored in my circumstances, but his unchanging love. And I love, before the foundation of time in this world, he chose us chose me, chose you, and loved us. And that truth anchors me. It reminds me to measure God's love not by my circumstances, but the cross and his love for me. And that changes everything. Finally, the wilderness transforms me. I came into this season wanting God to change a particular hard circumstance that I've been walking through. Instead, he's changing me.
Yes.
Sometimes suffering feels like a loss, but God uses it like surgery, pruning, healing, and shaping us. I'm also learning that not all suffering is spiritual warfare.
Right.
Some suffering is just part of living in a broken world.
Yeah.
And sometimes what feels painful is actually God doing surgery in our hearts. I recently heard an interview with Pastor Tim Timberlake talk about the process of overcoming, and it resonated deeply with me. Sometimes God, the gardener, prunes us, not to harm us, but to heal us and prepare us for greater fruitfulness. So in hard seasons, I'm learning to ask, is this drawing me closer to you, God, or away from you? Is this producing fear or fruit? Even painful pruning can produce deeper faith, greater intimacy, and a stronger trust. So as I reflect over the past few months, I came into this wilderness season wanting to change my circumstance, and it hasn't changed. But instead, he's changing me. He's teaching me that surrender in the daily is his love is constant.
Yes.
And even in the hard places, they can become holy as we draw closer to him.
Yes.
I still don't understand everything, but I know this. I am chosen. I am loved by my Father, and I'm his.
Yes.
And even in the wilderness, God is making streams in the desert.
Yes. And we truly believe that he can do that in your lives as well. And so we just wanted to pass these beautiful works of God along to you, hoping that our testimonies would be an encouragement in your walk. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we do pray that it really encouraged you. And we also want to share with you that we want you to look forward to next week, because we are going to be interviewing author Morgan Kruger on her new book called Made to Magnify. Now, that interview is going to be airing not on Monday, July 13th, but on Wednesday, July 15th. So please tune in, because you will not want to miss our conversation.
Friends, thank you for joining us today. Remember, wherever you are today and however you're feeling, hopeful, weary, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. So keep joining us at the soiree table, where together we can all celebrate life with our extravagant God.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for watching.